Today's episode is sponsored by Dilly Dally Fest. Dilly Dally Fest 3 is back in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, November 15th and 16th, 2025. We're ecstatic to host The Spirit of Versailles, In Loving Memory, Snowing, Heavy Heavy Low Low, February, The Exploration, Arrows in Her, and more once again at the Underground Arts. Follow at Breadbox Philly on Instagram for more details and for ticket info. See you there. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine, where you can go to sign up and support the show, read zines, get music sneak peeks, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Cryptids by Nuvolascura, featuring my pal Daniel Torres on bass. The song comes from their new album, How This All Ends, which is out on Zegama Beach Records.
Brother, and he's 3.5, 4 years older than me. So, growing up, I wanted to do everything that my older brother did. And I wanted to listen to everything that my older brother listened to. So obviously at first that was it was Blink 182 probably is it has to start there. Mm-hmm. And then obviously there's I don't know if you happen to be familiar with K-Rock here in LA, the alt rock station or radio station, but listening to K-Rock with my brother, which was playing Offspring and Sublime and stuff like that. But which actually is probably a good place to start too, because my brother, when he got to high school, he, became friends with quite a few people who were playing music, and they played in a ska band, that played all around my town. And because I wanted to do everything that my older brother did, I eventually found myself tagging along with him to these shows, and I think the first time I had been to concerts before, big shows. I saw Good Charlotte when I was really young, with my aunt, and I don't know, I never really, it didn't really connect to me, but when I went to this ska show at a coffee shop down the street from my grandparents' house, I so it's wow, I'm right in front of the band, I know the people on stage, and afterwards we're gonna hang out, and that was the first interaction with music where I was wow, I would love to play music like this. I'd love to be in a band and like, just play shows. And I played piano and guitar like through middle school. So like that was when up until this point, like it was like I was just like learning like not necessarily like sheet music, but like whatever music I needed to learn to like go or like be in that music class.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, oh, I want to like learn how to play songs, and I want to like maybe even like write my own songs, but like that's like I'm not even gonna say that that's like the incident that like got me to where I'm at today, but that's like the first part like it's the first half of the answer.
Yeah.
The second half of the answer was like because that like it was those like ska shows were like DIY, but they were like very, very like pay to play like stuff like at like I remember eventually when I did form a band or with my brother, like we did one of those pay to play shows, and it was like how are we going to come up with this money to play this like coffee shop, but the second half of the answer is one of the friends that I met through those shows, like he eventually like I don't know, he had a cousin who was friends with who went to high school and was friends with Cameron Hughes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was friends with Cameron, and I think through Cameron, I have no idea what Cameron's story is, but Cameron eventually was hooked up with some bands that were doing more like house shows and like what I consider to be like the first like DIY or like the DIY music community in the San Gabriel Valley here. So that first, my friend Evan invited me to this backyard show that happened to be up the street from my parents' house. And it was, the first band was this band called Baby's Breath. And then there was a band called Off Track, a band called Creatures, and then this power violence band called Badmouth. And all four of those bands are significant to me in various ways. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get into that, but
those names are all perfect for a first show. I just got to say that. Yeah.
And I still have the flyer somewhere around here, where like, it's like they just don't make flyers like that anymore.
Sure.
But anyways, like going to this like house show, and just like seeing like, like I walked in and like, I was like literally 13, maybe I was 14 actually. And I like, it was like my freshman year of high school. And like I walked in and like the first thing I see is like a vinyl like distro like setup, and then next to that was like vegan cupcakes. Like I'd never like even like I didn't really understand what like being vegan is. Mm-hmm. And like next to that was like someone selling zines, and like one of them was like how to like crochet, and then the other one was like a know your rights, like with like if you're arrested or like blah blah blah, like mm-hmm. that kind of stuff. And like I was like, what is going, like there's like so much more going on here than just like these bands. And then like the band started playing, and I was like, whoa, like this is like sick music. So I'll get into the first band, Baby's Breath, which was a folk punk band. It was actually, can't really can't really talk about this early time without mentioning Mark Chen. Baby's Breath was Mark Chen's band before he started Summer Vacation.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like seeing Baby's Breath, like, you know, like all of Mark's bands like are interweaved with my whole like experience of like Southern California DIY and
And a lot
beyond.
of people's.
And yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like seeing that, like I'd never like you know, like trying to describe folk punk to someone, like experiencing folk punk for the first time, but like, you know, it was very, you know, it was like the band that eventually turned into Summer Vacation. So it was a little bit more like pop punk oriented, or like, you know, if you're familiar with Summer Vacation's music, it was like, you know, it was obviously like turning into that band.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, just like experience, like walking into that backyard and like seeing all these people, and they're like, you know, like they're all friends, and they're all like, they all know each other, and then they play like they're all in each other's bands, and like I just like knew that like I wanted to be a part of that in like a much more significant way than just like going to the shows.
Yeah.
And you know, at that point, like I wasn't like, you know, I played, like I said, I've like played instruments for a long time, but I was you know, I don't even really think I'm that good now, but like back then I was very, very not good. And so like, because I wasn't that good, and also on top of this, like everyone was like much older than me, and a lot of my friends at the time, like I said, like I was doing what my older brother was doing, so a lot of my friends were older than me, and at that point they had all just like gone to college and dispersed. So I didn't really have anyone I could form a band with. So the next show that I went to, like I was like, because I wanted to be a part of this community in some way, like I did what I could do, which was, you know, it was take pictures. And basically that's how I started, interacting with the DIY community at large, was like, I wanted to document and take pictures of like these shows that were happening. And yeah, no, that's now here I am. That was back in 2009. So 16 years, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
I'm trying to think, like what was your way at that point of engaging with bands, like once you had taken their pictures? I don't have like the best timeline of the experience for sharing, like, you know, what you were doing, like the visual cataloging of these shows and stuff. Was it like
Yeah,
Flickr?
yeah,
Were you like, hey, you go up to the band afterwards and you're like, I'm gonna put these up on Flickr, you can share them? Like, what was that part like at that point?
yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. Like, so back in like 2009, um, I'll say like from 2009 to 2011, maybe 12. Like I was basically just uploading them on Flickr.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was like the only like free and accessible way to like share photos, or at least that I was aware of at the
Right.
time. You could do like I had like a WordPress, or no, it wasn't even WordPress. It was what was before that? It was oh shoot, it was a Blogspot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a handful of like different blog spots, and then eventually a WordPress. But yeah, no, like back in the day, it was just kind of like, it was like kind of the middle time between like MySpace and Facebook. So early on, I would just literally like comment the link on bands' MySpace pages. Hey, I took pictures. I took pictures of your show. Like come check it out. And like like when I'd see them, or if I'd see them like make it a like their display picture, I'd be like, yes, like I did it.
Yeah.
So that was basically it. Eventually, it turns into just like posting on Instagram,
Right.
or literally just sending them a folder of things. Eventually, as time went on, like I did become friends with like a lot of the people I was taking pictures with. So it's just like, hey, here, like I'd send them the photo. I'd text them the photos. I'd say, hey, like you're like I posted the photos here, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and like it is funny that you mentioned that, because like back in the day, but like the very early time of like me taking photos of bands, I wasn't very good at like sharing it beyond like sending it to the band. And like who knows if like if whoever the band I was sending it to like saw it, and like whether or not they liked it, like they like those photos would not be shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I ended up with like an archive of like these photos from way back in the day that like no one ever really saw. And like a couple of years ago, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this account that I do, but I eventually realized like no one has seen these photos, so I'm just going to start posting them.
Yeah.
And that account is do it yourself .626. And so I've been really terrible at keeping up with it the last year or so.
Yeah.
I hope to start posting more eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny how whenever I post these photos, and it's like these people like I like still talk to this day, or like hang out with on a semi-regular basis. They're like, I've never seen these photos. Why didn't you ever show me these photos?
Yeah.
and, or like they're trying to like, and like it's cool too, like, and I especially like posting them on Instagram and like tagging as many people as I can, because it's like, oh, I remember this show, like this is when like this and this happened, or this is when I met this person,
Yeah.
and we started this band together. And like it like adds a whole other dimension.
Yeah.
And like as like a photographer, like that's like all I like could hope for, like is like to just like document this specific time before it just like gets lost to memory.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so as I'm saying this, I'm like in my head, I'm like, damn, why haven't I been posting?
Right.
But
It sounds like
I had go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like you could, that was gonna be like one of my follow-up questions when you first brought that up, is like, it sounds like you could have the makings of a really awesome, like sort maybe specific to your area, but like a history, like zine almost, where like you're talking, the more you talk about it, when you're like, and then I show these people this picture, and then all these stories come up, and that's what we're doing in any way that we're trying to like archive this stuff, is cement these stories in our personal histories and the history of the people who were involved, and it's, I don't know, it's really
Absolutely.
awesome. And another question I was going to ask is, you said like you're not that good at that point, but like the fact that you have these to like reflect on and stuff, like, do you ever go through these, and I mean, we like, I can't speak for, your experience and what it was like for you to be discovering this part of yourself, but just like as a person who took photos on family vacations or whatever, there would be a lot, right? And
Yeah.
But do you ever just go through them and you're like, okay. But then you're like, holy shit, hold on. I was like cooking right here. Like this was like, do you surprise yourself with like,
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I'll like I can like send you a screenshot of like what my archive or like what my files look like. But like it, there's just so many shows. Like I went to so many shows back in the day, and like I sometimes like when I'm going through like it just turns into so many different files, and because of that, like when I first go through the photos, like sometimes like I'll miss like an incredible shot or something like that, like on the first pass, and now like I'm discovering some stuff like years later, like oh shit, like this is like look who's standing in the back of like this 10,000 Leagues photo, or who like why didn't I post this photo of like Jeff from Calculator like singing along with Cameron and Labea, blah blah blah. Like why didn't I edit these photos? So like certainly like I'll never like I certainly surprise myself with like how I went about taking these photos sometimes. I'll see like whenever I mostly don't take photos at shows these days. I'll say like I'm a little I don't want to say I'm retired, but it takes well, I'll say like as someone that plays shows, it sometimes takes a lot for me to just go to a show that I'm not playing. But so sometimes I'll surprise myself like with like like let's see, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. I'll surprise myself where it's like I'll be looking through some photos as I'm like deciding it like what show or like what band I'm gonna post on this archive, where like it's like, am I standing on this person's amp? Like, did I ask if that was okay? How did I get this perspective, or or like I was literally I'll see a photo and like there's like a lot of people moving around. There's like a like people crowd surfing or whatever it is, and like I'll see the photo and I'll see that happening, and I'll be like, I'm shooting this with this camera, which as time went on, I started to shoot film cameras, and like eventually, like when I made photography my career, like I started to use like pretty expensive equipment, and like it's like how was like I had this camera and like this guy like this guy's foot is like inches away from my lens. Like that would have been like that would have been tragic for me like at that age,
Yeah.
And eventually I had like my certain I had certain like kit I love collecting cameras, and I love like vintage cameras, whether they're film or digital or whatnot. But like I did have some cameras that I was like, if I get kicked in the face and I'm taking a photo and this camera breaks, I won't be so sad. And then I have cameras where it's like it would be devastating.
Sure. Yeah.
So I surprise myself in that way sometimes. But no, I mean, it's like, I love doing the archive because it is like rediscovering, like, it's rediscovering like these like moments in time, and like, wow, I was at this show, like, oh yeah, I remember meeting like this person at this show, and like exactly like exactly like I described about like posting and hearing people's let's see, I'll say perspective of like hearing other people's experiences of shows that I documented, and then comparing it with my experience of that show as I was documenting it.
Yeah. There's all
So
the
yeah, no,
worlds in worlds
yeah,
going on.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, what is really cool is like, I like the archive page I have, like it from people like sharing it and whatnot. I'll like have people message me that I've never met before, and they'll be like, "Hey, like I was at this show, and like it's crazy. Like I'm seeing these photos for the first time. Like this is incredible, blah blah blah." And so it's like I'm like continuing to like expand my interaction with the community, like what I set out to do all those years ago, which was like I want to be a part of this community in a much different, or in a much more significant way than just like going to the shows. Like I want to build community, and like it's still like, and like that archive is just an extension of that. It's just like that's always been my goal. So like it makes me really happy when I have those kinds of interactions.
I love that in the most, like, from the most profound examples that you could think of to the most like simple or what. Like I love the idea that somebody could just be like, "Oh, I don't remember having that haircut," or like just whatever. I love how the importance of the event comes down to like every single person that was there.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
No, I was just sort of winding off there.
No. So the most common like thing I'll get when like to that vein of like, "Oh, I don't remember having that haircut," is people being like, "Damn, like where did that shirt go that I'm wearing?"
Was my guess.
yeah. And like I have those interactions too. Like when I'm going through like like when I like whenever I'm like seeing photos that other people have taken of bands, and like I'll see myself in the photos. It's like, "Oh damn, where's that La Quiere shirt that I had?" Or like fuck, like did I leave that at my ex-girlfriend's house? Like, yeah. So that's the most common interaction that I get through my archive. But no.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like, at that point you're doing all that, and like you said before, you were playing music like in a more like like in school or whatever, like but you were like already you had the itch to like create your own stuff and everything. How did you start like making that a reality for yourself? Like, was it you mentioned guitar before, like did you start out like like you were saying you were playing in bands with your brother, like were you playing guitar then, or was it like your brother played guitar so you were like, how did you come to play bass, and like what were your first couple bands like?
So I took man, was it the same year now that I'm thinking about it? I started taking music classes. I want to say it was in the 6th grade, and we learned piano and guitar. But no, like I don't know why, but like I was always drawn to playing bass. I think I'm gonna be embarrassing and probably and say that it was probably because I loved Blink-182 and I liked Mark Hoppus's songs more than Tom DeLonge's songs. But yeah, no, I don't know. It just ended up that way. But yeah, like I said, like my brother actually played drums. And so my brother, like like I said, like he met a bunch of people in high school, before I was even in high school with him. He brought home, or like he brought a friend over who played guitar, and like I had a bass. Like I had like one of those, my grandma for Christmas, I think when I turned 12, got me like one of those Squire like kits, where it was like the bass, the amp, the cable, like it was like a starter kit.
Yeah, with like a CD or a DVD or something too, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And so like my brother was just like jamming with this guitarist, and like saw that bass in the garage. And like, you know, my brother didn't invite me to play or to jam in this band, but the guitarist was like, "Oh, like, why is there a bass here? We need a bassist." And my brother, I'll have to ask him if he needed some convincing to let his little. I must have been in the 7th grade at the time. Maybe I was in the 8th grade, to jam in his high school band that was trying to emulate like somewhere between like Pennywise and Sublime.
Okay.
I don't know. There's some YouTube videos out there I will never share, but like sometimes I'll like come across it and be like, yeah, this is a fun time.
Yeah, that was weird, but cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was mostly just like, it was just like my first experience playing music, and whether they were good or whether it was good or bad, like you'll still cherish that. But
yeah.
Anyways, so that was my first band, was just like this weird ska core band. And then my brother went to college, and like we tried a couple of times to like make that band into something more serious, and it just never really happened. And like by that time I kind of was just like content with like taking photos, and like really, and again, like I said, like I was much younger than everyone that like I was interacting with at the shows and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So like it never really occurred to me like that they'd want to play in a band with me.
Yeah.
And like it just it didn't really happen for me until like must have been 2014, after I started volunteering at Bridgetown, and became friends with my friend Andy. Do you know Andy Zambrano? He played in La Bea.
I know the name. I'm not sure that I have met Andy personally.
Okay. So Andy and I, through Bridgetown became pretty close friends. We're still very, very good friends to this day. I just had him over yesterday. He was building IKEA furniture in my living room for some reason. He like I had, but I mean by that point, like Bridgetown really like opened the world up for me, because I just started hanging out with all these people that I had been going to see their bands play for a long time. And now like we're doing Bridgetown together, and like now we're like friends.
Mm-hmm.
So by that point, I had gone on tour with Left Astray. like an earlier version of Left Astray. And Andy played second guitar on that tour. And so just on that tour, like he like, realized that I played music too. um, and was like, oh, we should start a band. And like Andy at the time, really loves the band, Built to Spill, and like Unwound, and like that kind of like early like indie rock stuff. So yeah, he was playing. So he was playing with Labea at the time, and like wanted to do something where he sang, and that was like a little bit more indie rock, I should say. And so I played bass in a band called Sidewalk with him, and our friend Dave, who played drums, and did that for like a year. We played, we were basically like Bridgetown's house band for like the 9 months that we existed. Yeah, no, that was like my first. Those were like my first DIY shows that I played. Like I had been like going to DIY shows for a long time. Those were my first like actual DIY shows that I played. And then yeah, like I guess I could also get into how I joined Nuvo.
Yeah, I was because like when we first played with Nuvo, I think it was like Erica's first show or something, or like second show. Like, wasn't Erica very new?
Oh, really?
And like that was at Bridgetown, like years and years and years ago. And I'm not even sure. Were you in the band at that time? I'm not even sure the full range of like.
I don't think so. So before we started talking, I was trying to remember. So I met you back in 2013, I believe. Shoot, maybe it was later than that.
I'm not sure. That sounds right, but like, for a couple years I was really getting around.
So what I remember, so y'all were obviously on, or Coma was obviously on tour, and I remember helping with the show at Bridgetown. And then y'all played a show in like Santa Ana, actually with my brother's band. My brother's band, Tough Stuff, played with y'all. But I don't recall seeing Coma again until South by Southwest back in 2017. No, 2016. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not...
Do you remember playing Bridgetown?
Yeah, we played 2 Bridgetown shows. And I think it would have been the second one where Nuvo played.
That's sounding more familiar. Yeah, because Nuvo, or like the first iteration of Nuvo, didn't really start playing until 2014, I want to say.
This would have been... Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to like...
Oh, yes. Okay, this is starting to sound familiar.
I should have like done more research on this part on my end, but like, yeah, it's just, yeah, it was, there was a couple shows that we played, and I think the one I'm thinking of where Nuvo played, where like, it was like Erica's like first or second show or something. It was like, and one of Mark Chen's bands played. I can't remember which band off the top of... Like, I'm trying to think where in the timeline, what band... I want to say it was Summer Vacation, but like...
It must have been...
It could have been Winter Break, because those were like the 2 back-to-back, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It must have been Winter Break.
Yeah?
Yeah. This is starting to make sense. I'm I'm trying to do a little bit of research on the side here, but I'm not really,
Well, I was just like,
finding what it is. But sorry, go ahead.
The winter break thing was like, I don't think they were supposed to play at first, and then it was just like they could, and it was awesome. But then the other thing was like, I was just like, I was blown away by Nuvo. Like I was literally just like, this band, like this vocalist just got in this band, and this is like incredible. And like I was just like I had no idea what was going on. And I think that one of Tanner's bands might have played as well. Tanner Oberl. I can't remember the name of all of Tanner's bands around that time, but I'm not 100% on that either. That could have just been we played with one of Tanner's bands at one of the other shows.
Okay.
But yeah,
okay. All right.
Yeah,
I have the show in front of me.
Yeah. Another reason why I'm going to give myself an out for like my memory being a little is that was the time when our my van broke down in California, and it was at a shop for like a couple days. And so one thing I remember is we were watching like Adventure Time and like the early Rick and Morty, like for like 2 days with like Eric and y'all and stuff, like various people, in and out.
Yes. Like, okay. Yes. This is all coming back to me now. And especially because I have the Facebook event in front of me right now.
Yeah.
And actually, oh, wow, I must have done this flyer too. Yeah, but it was, things might have changed. Let's see, maybe if I can see in the discussion panel, but yeah, oh wow, like I'm the one posting on here, so I must have organized this show too. But it was winter break.
Yeah. Okay.
First of all, it was November 8th, 2015.
Okay.
Winter break, Goma, Vril, which was Nuvo's first iteration,
right.
And then Heritage Unit.
Also, yeah, so, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And if I am remembering correctly, is that Heritage Unit's first show?
I don't know.
Must have been,
That's how.
Been a very early show. Yeah.
That's when I met Randall, I think, for the first time as well. Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. That makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, that's so funny. Okay, so this is all. Now I can speak confidently about it. So I definitely was not in. I was not in Nuvo at the time.
Right.
That was. I'm not so sure if because Erica. Because I joined. Actually, this might have been the. Oh no! That was in January. This was like one of the last shows with their previous bassist, Zach, who actually I just hung out with this past weekend at Eric's wedding. Anyways, this show, man, I'm unlocking quite a few memories here. But yeah, no, I remember this show very well. I actually took a picture of Nuvo that still gets used for like press stuff. And it's just funny because it's and I love Zach. And like it's just funny that like it's like I've not been like we've had people do press on us and it's like not me.
Yeah, and it's 10 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 10 years old. Like I'm technically like a part of the picture because I'm the one that took the picture, but it's not me in the picture. But anyways, no, that's so funny. I completely forgot about this show. But yeah, no, sorry. All right, I'm gonna stop going down memory lane this way.
Well, that's all we do here, really. Yeah,
I guess that's true. But yeah, no, I don't remember. So, man, November 2015. Yeah, wow. I was living with like, or wait, was I? Yeah. I was living with like Eric and Andy. I was like, it was like the first like quote unquote punk house that I lived in. I had just moved in. So yeah, you must have, if your van had broken down. I don't remember too much about that, but that was also my senior year of college. So I was very, very domed out on school, trying to do senior projects. But yeah, anyways, yeah, no, I remember that show very vividly now.
Yeah. Well, for us, it was like I said, the car broke down. And so, you know, my recollection of like where exactly we were staying and things like that is like, it's spotted by the fact that was an extremely stressful situation that I was in, you know? And I remember everyone being like so hospitable and like welcoming and just like not putting any pressure on us whatsoever. And so I can just try to deal with this other thing that was going on. And you know, and so it was like a, you know, such a, we have all these instances, of course, in DIY where we have these instances of extreme kindness, and that was one that I'll always like, you know, cherish, even though like I'm like, yeah, I know Daniel was there, I know Eric was there. It felt like people were coming and going. That was all cool. Everybody was just like, yeah, just like veg out, do whatever you need to do, you know, and we were just like watching cartoons and chatting and, you know, whatnot. But yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. Man, I must have been like very, like I said, that time, it's funny. You're mentioning a very stressful time, for yourself. Like that also like
for you,
was a very stressful, like, like, and like, I don't recall anything beyond the show. And like my life at that time, like it was like, that was like the beginning of my like Bridgetown is like my life. And like, so my life at the time was like 85% Bridgetown, and like, I know this doesn't make sense, but also like 85% school.
Yeah.
So like, I really don't remember much of like anything beyond that.
Yeah. Not a lot of room for hanging out. Yeah.
But anyways, and also, wasn't that the year that Left Astray's van broke down and stayed with you guys?
Probably. It was there was a couple years where we were just, we were, all of us collectively were going hard and dealing with hardships and and that was, I don't know. We could fill a whole other hour with like them staying at my house and like you know, like the things that we did and, you know, just like what we were trying to do to keep their minds off things and stuff. But, it's
they were stuck out there for like I felt like 2 weeks, but they were also just on tour for like 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, they were at my house for a while, but they also like, their van wasn't in my town, so it was only a couple of them that were at my house, and a couple of them were somewhere else. And there was a lot of sort of going back and forth too, because they had to deal with the situations, you know, and so that, you know, like the whole thing that went down that had us going down this memory lane here was like, I was like, yeah, I don't think you were in the band at that point, and you weren't.
Oh, yes.
But you did join them shortly after. And
yeah. Sorry, I forgot the whole point.
It's totally understandable. So you did, you know, you got in the band, and that was like, you know, is it 2015 when you joined the band? Like,
so it was my first practice with them was like end of January of 2016. So I think at that point, like, it was known that Zach, their previous bassist, wasn't going to be in the wasn't going to be in the band, or I'm not entirely sure how that all went down. But yeah, I very shortly after joined, and joining is actually a really funny story, and involves Left Astray. um, they were a part of, like, I don't know, they had like a friend that like was doing a short film, and it was like a short film about like this couple that were like very like punk. like
Okay.
I always describe like punk in like two different ways. There's like the punk with like the circle A, where the A goes outside the circle, and then there's punk with the circle A that's just like a neat circle.
Yeah, okay.
So
I
like this couple was the punk with the A that goes outside of the circle.
yeah.
um and they, like, it's the short film, so there was like a scene that like like that needed a band to be playing, like a punk band, and it was decided that Left Astray was going to be that band. And so of course they needed extras for this scene so that it looked like it was a real show. And so, like, I went out, like, I got invited, like a bunch of just Bridgetown people got invited to like be extras in this show, in this scene of a show. And like, filming something like that, like you're basically just like they were doing a bunch of different scenes that day. And so like we were all just hanging out like for probably like 8 hours before they even like asked us like, hey, like we're ready for you guys.
Yeah.
And like, they had like the crafty or like they had the food and stuff, so we were just chilling, like eating this free food. There was like a nice little like downtown section that we were like hanging out in. And so like I had known Eric, like at that point, like, Vril, the first iteration of Nuvo, like they were already like one of my favorite bands. Like they were one, like I would like if they were playing a show, like I was there, whether it was at Bridgetown or whether it was like down in like San Diego, Temecula or whatever. Like I loved seeing that band. And they're like even like like I always say this, like, and it's like slightly embarrassing, but like even to this day, like they're some of my favorite musicians to watch. And like I always say, like playing in Nuvo, like I just have the best seat to experience them. But anyways, they because like we were hanging out and like Erica was there. Like we were just talking, and like, at that point it was known that Zach wasn't going to be in the band anymore. And I think through the course of conversation, like Erica like was like, oh, like you're trying to play in a band, like why don't you play bass for Vril? And that's how I was asked to join. It was at this this filming of this like very weird ass movie. That happened. That must have been at some point between that show that we were just talking about and end of January 2016. And then I played my first show with them February 2016. And yeah, man, it's been 9 years since I've been playing with them. That's pretty crazy.
Shout out to like the fact that screamo bands can last for like 9+ years now,
Yeah, no, it's truly.
But Yeah, you said you have the best seat in the house, and like, yeah, I can't imagine, like, if I was playing bass and I looked over at the guitars, like what's going on there, like I would have no idea what I was playing anymore. So props to you for being able to keep it together. Like if I was watching Taylor, if I was watching what they were doing, then I could probably be like, I'd still be wowed. I'd be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm like playing with this person." But like, I'd be able to like lock in a little better because
Yeah.
it just makes more sense. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, especially like that new album. Like, okay, like we're going a little bit long here, so let's just jump straight to that. Like,
I will say really quickly,
sure, sure.
it appears that I don't have a heart out anymore. So, we're free to talk as
Oh,
long as we
okay,
need to.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, still, I guess we'll kind of go where I was going. Because like, all right, so like the new album, the first thing that popped into my head was like, I never thought that there's like a border for screamo, like where it's like, oh, this can be like this and it has to stop, like there has to be a line that draws somewhere. I've never thought
Right.
that about like punk music in general, so like,
Right.
so I don't mean that in any kind of context that like is opposing to that idea, but like I just thought it was like, I was like, this is like really progressive, like as far as like not not necessarily the sounds, not necessarily the movements of the music, but like I was just like, this is big on a scale that I don't think a lot of screamo has touched up to this point, where it's like, these people really know what the hell they're doing on their instruments. And like, I'm not saying anybody else is bad at their instruments. I'm just saying this goes somewhere where like, I don't know who to like, even compare it to, because I'm not like big on like progressive metal or whatever, but that's
Right.
that's the kind of influence that I feel like I'm hearing that I don't hear from like, a lot of other bands like you, like Jason likes to say that Coma Regalia is like a prog screamo band. And what Jason means by that is like old Genesis albums and stuff. And like, I'm like, no, I get that, because like that does make sense to me, because I listen to a lot of old Genesis, and there's just these little plucky, like sort of like weirdness things to some of our songs where it's like, this isn't like the jam, that like most like that screamo would be like known for or whatever. Although
Right.
there's plenty of that in our stuff as well, but like y'all's is like a whole different kind of thing. And like I was curious, like, is that is this a conscious thing? Is this like a natural like occurrence of y'all just wanting to push the envelope, or is it like, were you all directed like by yourselves, like were you directing yourselves to go further and further down certain kinds of paths that led you there? Like what was the becoming of this album as far as like how it came to be that way?
Right. Um, yeah, that is a good question. That is a great question. So what I'll say is like, so Dom and Taylor are like primary songwriters, and especially on this new album. So first of all, like what I'll say is like, this album, like we had a couple of demos. Maybe we did. Maybe of like one or two songs. I'm sure that Dom or Taylor had like some ideas that eventually evolved into the songs that are on that record. But this record was written almost primarily during lockdown, because we had recorded our second record like December 2019, and then it was released in June of 2020. So like we really didn't like have so because we were in lockdown, like me, Dom, and Taylor didn't get together, like, or I should say the three of us didn't really get together until like I want to say January, maybe February of 2021. And by that time, like Dom and Taylor, they've always lived very close to each other. They like, during lockdown were quarantined together at certain points. And I'm sure they were just, let's just write shit. Like Taylor's got an electric drum set. Dom, can play whatever combo he has or whatever it is. And so they were just like writing stuff like while we were on lockdown. And so like when I was first presented like the majority of these songs at like, I was like, like I said earlier, like I don't consider myself like a good musician in any respect. And like Dom and Taylor are such incredible musicians. So I've always felt like I've been playing like catch up with this band.
Sure.
And like when I was first presented these songs, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I would melt down and I would come back 3 days later like, okay, I think I'm ready to try now, So like, I get that part.
No,
yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like the other thing too that like contributed to how these songs were arranged is not only like not only were we obviously in lockdown during this, so like we can't really play, like it didn't really make sense for us at the time to like go, because we had also just lost our lockout rehearsal space. So we were just doing like, it didn't make sense for us to go to like an hourly place. Like it didn't like, I didn't want to expose myself to COVID. So like because of that, like Dom and Taylor, like on their own, like Taylor really got into music production. Right. I think Tay had always been interested in that, but I think that's when Tay had started to like work with Logic and like, actually programming drums. And so I believe most of like these ideas for these songs were like started in Logic, like no drums, no real drums, just like plugging straight into one of those Focusrite thingies, the interfaces.
Yeah.
And like Taylor literally like programming these drums and being like, and just like, oh, what if this hit was just like off like by this amount, or like what if this was like, or, like what if I just like invert this, and like you have like it's like I personally don't have the brain for that, but Taylor does.
Yeah.
I'll say both Dom and Taylor do have that like music brain of just like seeing a piece of music and like seeing like, oh, it'd be cool if like we like did it this way, or if we like this is how we wrote it, but what if we did it another way instead? And like, just like coming, and like a lot of the songs or a lot of the record was written where like pieces of songs were completed and then eventually like kind of, I don't want to say collaged together, but like is like, oh, we'll come back to like, I know that this is the end of the song.
Yeah.
So we'll come back and write the rest of the song later. And things like that. But
yeah.
like, like as far as like making a conscious effort to like make it sound like in your words, like more progressive than our previous stuff. Like, I think what I'll say is like, I think that element had always been there in Dom and Taylor's songwriting.
Yeah, for sure.
And like it definitely like shows itself on like it shows like there's parts on this new album that like when I like revisit oh sorry, one second. Oh, there it is. When I revisit our previous albums or like our previous songs or whatever, where it's like, oh, like I see where that was going.
Yeah.
Like this kind of thing. This like Dom was like getting ready to write this part for this song by doing this other part, you know.
Yeah.
So like again, like I wish I could speak a little bit more on like how like whether or not it was like a conscious effort to like go that direction. You know, ultimately, like a lot of this record, I was essentially like presented, and it's like, all right, like figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, even like the way that you're describing the writing part, though, it's a bit like that for everyone in the band because even Taylor like has to then go back at some other point and be like, okay, now I got to figure out how to actually play this shit. Like,
yeah,
you know,
oh my god, yeah. No,
which has to be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually like you know I told you I had a hard out at 11:30, but it was because we were supposed to practice today, and we're trying to get ready for some shows we have coming up at the end of this month and into August, and it's like it's because like we really have to practice because we have to figure out how to play these songs live. And you know it is you know it is I'll say it's a journey.
yeah but sometimes you just gotta be like, which ones of these are even gonna work like with what else we're doing, you know.
Yeah, I mean mostly what it is just like, you know, we're not young anymore. Like it's mostly just like stamina of like how can we play enough of these songs to call it a set, you know. But yeah, no, we've been having a fun time figuring it out. But yeah, no, we're really excited to play these songs that, you know, they've been kicking around in one form or another for about 5 years now. So like we're really excited to finally be playing these songs and to have just shared this record with everyone. It's been quite the journey, like I said.
yeah, it's awesome, and I've seen people like do nothing but praise it, so that's awesome to see as well.
We're really lucky that so many people have said such nice things.
So like you mentioned, you know, you're getting ready for these shows, and I know we don't have an out, but I have been trying to keep these to around an hour. I'm so grateful that people will even listen to this for an hour, but I don't want to push it, you know? Like, what shows do you have coming up that you can talk about? Like,
so at the end of this month, we're gonna go up to Oakland, California, and play Bon Iver's first show back.
Oh hell yeah!
Which is pretty exciting. Shoot, I don't recall who else is playing that band or that show. And I'll look really, really fast so I can promote this correctly.
That's gonna be a big one.
Yeah, no. So no. So it's Bon Iver, us, Mal, and with Open Arms, who we played with a couple of months ago. And yeah, no, that'll be really cool. It's at 94 Gilman. Have you gotten a chance to play there?
I have not. At any point? I have not. Okay. The only times we've been out there, it was like they were only doing shows on certain days or something like that, and the days just didn't line up or something like that.
Yeah, it's you know, it's incredible that a venue that operates the way that they do has been operating for as long as they have. But yeah, it becomes an issue where it's like, they can only do so much.
Sure.
And then also like so many people are also interested in playing there. And that, so yeah, I'm really excited to finally get a chance to play there. It's actually, I've been lucky enough to play what I consider the big 3 DIY venues in California that we have, and 94 is the last one. So I get to check off that last box.
So there's that and the Shea Cafe, and then what's the
there's
third?
that Shea Cafe, and then I consider the Smell here in Los Angeles to be part of that. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the Smell. I would have said Bridgetown, Shea Cafe, and Gilman are my 3, and hopefully, like maybe next year, I can get Gilman off my list.
I mean, that means a lot that you consider Bridgetown to be a part of that.
Oh my gosh! Like the people that I met and the friendships that I still have because of that place, like just huge. Yeah.
Oh, well, that means so much. But yeah, no, I mean, the Smell. It's fun. So they've been operating. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent right now. I'll try to keep this short. But yeah, they've been going for. They've been going since like I think the early 2000s. But they were more on like a how do I describe this? Are you familiar with the band Mika Miko?
I don't think so.
They were, admittedly, I also don't listen to them too much. But they're like part of like the like no age, like kind of like indie rock or indie punk stuff, like punk that like kind of was like breaking out of like just being DIY, but not really considered like quote unquote indie.
So like a Flesner band or something?
I'm not familiar.
Oh, that's like the big label I always like see referenced when like it's like a band is like about to be really big, but they're like big, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, they like so. Mika Miko has members of what is that band? I think it's Bleached. Or no, what is that fucking band? Yeah, Bleached. Just like kind of like slop punk-y stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it's like you're obviously familiar with Summer Vacation. It's like the first generation of that. Okay. Like you can't really describe them as like pop punk, but that's like the closest thing you have. Sure. Yeah. But anyways, the Smell was more in that sort of vein. But they still did like hardcore shows and like, I saw like, if you're familiar with like Graf Orlock, like they played there. That whole like crew of people have played there. But anyways, that's my tangent on Southern California DIY. Yeah. Anyways. But yeah, no, so we're playing that show up at Gilman Street. Very, very cool. And then from there, we're going to fly out to Toronto and play New Friends Fest. Right. Also with Bonafire and a bunch of other homies. I actually haven't even looked at the lineup of the day we're playing. But we're playing. Actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say what day we're playing. So I'll just keep that to myself for now.
I'm not sure if they've had the full day things out yet or not either. Yeah. But like, the whole bill looks wild and like a lot of fun.
There's a ton of incredible bands playing. Very lucky to play that. And then I don't know why we did this to ourselves, but then we're going to turn around and play a show that same weekend back in LA. Not specifically in LA, but out in Riverside, which is about an hour outside of Los Angeles. And that show, man, I really am unprepared for this. That show is with quite a few bands. It's part me from Bear Island, Twister, who are on tour from Portland, Place We've Always Been, and Smother, who are both from the Inland Empire, Riverside area. And then actually I'm in a new band called Juna, and that'll be our first show playing that.
Okay, so that's what you meant by
Yeah.
unprepared?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that'll be so. Nuvo is playing that show too. But yeah, I'm pulling double duty for the first time. So that'll be interesting to see.
You
But
do bass on
yeah,
both?
no, yeah, I do
Okay.
bass. I think I'm gonna do vocals. It hasn't really been decided yet.
Okay.
Andy, who I was talking about earlier, is playing guitar and doing most of the vocals so far. We just recorded like a 2-song demo, so hopefully that'll be out at some point soon. Hopefully
Awesome.
at some point before that show, but we'll see. And then we're actually gonna do like a live radio show the day after that. On it's UC Irvine's like student radio show. I actually don't know if it has a name, but it's KUCI. It's Broken Sound.
Okay.
Is the name of the radio show that's going to host us. That'll be really cool. Erica. I'm not sure if she talked about it when she was having her conversation with you, but she like college radio has a special place in her heart because she was a radio DJ. So very exciting to get a chance to do that. And then the weekend after that, we're going to be doing a weekend of shows with Lord Snow on their like kind of comeback tour. Don't call it a comeback tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some wild shows that we're playing with them. The first show, which is on the 8th, is in Boyle Heights, which is East Los Angeles, is with New Mirrors, Bonavere, Lord Snow, Ghost Spirit, and Othiel. All big homies. Excited
That's
for that
bonkers,
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're playing another show not too far from there. There's not many details for it right now, but it'll be us, Lord Snow, and the band Lagrimas,
Okay.
and a couple of other bands. I don't have that's still TBD. And then on the 10th will be the last show with Lord Snow at Che Cafe down in La Jolla, San Diego area. And that's with Claybirds, Lord Snow, obviously, Chamise, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, and Sleep Like, who are both from San Diego. So yeah, and then I'll probably take a big old nap after that. A lot of traveling in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I would. Well, Daniel, it's been awesome catching up with you and chatting.
Yeah.
But like I said, I try to keep these at an hour. But is there anything that you want to talk about specifically before we take off, or?
I think I've just about covered it. We like to keep things short and sweet at Nuvo, so I'll keep this for what it is. I think
awesome.
like the last things I'll say obviously are to thank everyone thank you for having me on and having this conversation. It's been so fun catching up with you, and to just acknowledge and thank everyone who's said such nice things about the Nuvo record that just came out. And I'd be remiss to say or to not mention what's going on here in LA with all the ICE raids and whatnot. It's a pretty tough situation all around the country. Obviously the things that are going on here in Southern California are horrific. And, I feel like I open my phone every day and just read something horrible, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And my thoughts are with everyone that's affected by the state of this country. And, I'm just absolutely disgusted by everything that's going on. And, my final thoughts on that are, if you're listening to this, get organized. They're coming for everything. And the only way we're going to be able to get any sort of autonomy or get any sort of, I'm going to say revenge, honestly, is if we organize. So yeah, I'll leave it right there for that.
And that was my conversation with Daniel Torres. Thank you so much, Daniel, for taking the time to chat with me. It's really been a pleasure knowing you all these years. Thanks to all of the rest of you for listening wherever you are as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the Middleman Records YouTube page for upcoming show announcements and things like that. Until next time, take care and do good things.